Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. My name is EKPE Oto-obong Friday from Federal University, Lafayette. My job is very simple. The topic we are treating this morning is climate change, mitigation, green energy, and sustainable development in Nigeria. We are three authors, John, Joseph, and myself. Next slide, please. So on the introduction, briefly, the issue of climate change has been overflogged by several authors. Climate change necessarily means the long-term shift in temperature and weather patterns. When we say climate change, what do we mean by climate change? Climate change simply means the long-term shift in temperature and weather pattern. This can be caused naturally and sometimes by human factor. Naturally could be as a result of the cycle, the variations, changes in solar patterns, and also by human, by the burning of fossil fuels like we know the coal and water and the rest of them. Please, next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, issues and challenges. Over time, from the past, yesterday and earlier today, we've heard the issues of climate change and the rest of the presenters that have made their view. Now, climate change has several issues regarding this view. What we're trying to do here is that to see how climate change can be the reduction in climate change in vis-a-vis green energy, and how can that be sustained over time? Now, sustainability here, our preview here is to see how it can be sustained today and it will not be depleted, but can also be used by the future generation. Several issues were raised here. The energy crisis, which has engulfed Nigeria for almost 2 decades. Several issues were raised here. Please, next slide. Let's just move. Okay, objective. Primarily, we have 3 objectives in this work. The first was to see the relationships between various variables, which we had the green energy, education, health, sustainable development, and also to check the impact of climate change, green energy, education, health, and sustainable development in Nigeria. And lastly, was to check the causality relationship, if it was unilateral, bilateral, or no causality. Next slide, please. Okay, the methodology. Ideally, the model, I'm supposed to state the model first. I noticed this just when I was here by a brother to state the model before doing this. Ideally, we used 5 models. That's development, sustainable development, which we proxied for per capita income. We had climate change, which we use CO2 emission. We have a green energy, which we use renewable energy consumption, education, and health. And why we use education and health are because these are the factors that commensurate and determine sustainable development in a country. The methodology, ideally, there are several models. We have the short run and the long run models. Next slide, please. Let's move on. All right. Over here, this is the first stage. Of course, we should be familiar with this. This is the unit 2 test. Now, when we carry out this test, we test here to check for the stationarity among the variables we use. And then when we went through this, we noticed that at first difference, all the variables were stationary except of climate change, which was not stationary, was stationary at first difference. The rest we at level rather. And then we also checked for the Phillips peron, which we also saw that that the development and the rest of them were not stationary except of climate change. Education, health, and I can't see clearly from here. It's a bit far. Can it be a bit zoom? Is it possible? Please. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Please, sorry for that. All right, like I was saying, at first difference, we saw that for the ADF, we saw that all were stationary at level except for climate change. And then for the PP, the Phillips peron, we also saw the result as seen above at 5% level. Please, next slide. Okay, so when we checked this propelled us to go for the ARDL bound test. And then from the results, it has been seen, we saw at 5% that the figure of 7.3395 was higher than that of 3.48. And then since it's greater at upper bound, we said at all significant level, there exists a long-run relationship between sustainable development, climate change, energy, education, and health. Therefore, a long-run model and an error correction model are estimated for variables as stipulated by Pearson and Chen. Next slide, please. All right, we also checked for the long run, and then we also saw the same results. Then we saw that the green energy does not significantly impact sustainable development in the long run, as seen in the results. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also checked for the short run too. Since we checked for short run too, and then when we checked here, as seen here, we noticed that we had positive relationship between the diverse variables we have, except of the health and education, the health. And this factor, while we have negative, they could be as a result of several effects or substances that could affect healthcare. Of course, we should know over time when the climate change, when the effect of the burning of fossil fuels are high, over time there are external or externalities or spillover effects that are being brought down. So from the result, we saw this, that they all had positive relationship except of that. Next slide, please. Okay. The conclusion of the result, we also notice that the result shows first, I'll use the Granger causality test. It shows that it's a one-way causal relationship between sustainable development and education on one hand, and development and health on the other hand. And there exists no causal relationship between any of the climate change and green energy on sustainable development. Next slide, please. Conclusion, all have been said. Trying to relate all what we've done to a particular framework we use, which was the KAC framework, that's Environmental Coastnet framework. We notice seeing the variables we use and the result we have afterwards, we notice that citing the preview or the ethics of the EKC framework, which shows the economic degradation and per capita income, that was noticed, and in the conclusion, we saw the several results, and we have the next slide, please. Recommendation. So at the tail end of all our reviews, we had several recommendations, a breach, or let's say cross-section of all we had. I just picked this for. The first, the government should ensure that statistical offices incorporate the factors of climate change, green energy consumption, and government expenditure on education to adequately measure sustainable development in Nigeria. Also, to improve the standard of living of the people, the government should improve spending in health. Of course, you saw in the result that the health, we had negative relationship with health, amongst other variables, health had, we had negative relationship that and development. And also the use of renewable energy sources in energy generation should be encouraged, as it will help reduce greenhouse gases, which mitigate climate change and reduce environmental and health complications associated with pollutants from fossil fuels. And finally, the government should create policies aimed at improving institutional training and capacity of research on climate change, as it will increase awareness, promote adaptation, and ensure sustainable development. For other details, we also cited in this paper, but for the want of time, these are the few things I would like to say for now. Thank you very much for your time.